Once ESPN posted a highlight of Bronny James fronting the post and getting a deflection, it was enough for me.
Yeah.
I was like, look at this defense. I was like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah, no.
Done. Welcome to Rogue Bogues on the basketball episode. It's been a little while. It's off season, obviously, so not a whole lot going on NBA-wise. We're going to go through free agency, talk about Olympics, a little bit of NBL news, but most importantly, we're going to talk about Pro's trip to Greece that he just came back from not long ago. How was that this time, Pro?
Bogues, always if I'm going to disappear, like if somebody's going to be after me, I'm going to be probably in Loutraki in Greece. It's like an hour from Athens. It was great. No, it was cool. Got a chance to do some clinics and stuff, coach's clinic and some working out some young kids and then went to see my guy's academy director at Olympiacos. So he got me into the Greece Montenegro friendly. So that was pretty cool. And I got a chance to see that. And Giannis didn't play yet, but it was cool environment, good people, man. Food was great. And yeah, it was good. It was good.
Great place over there. Good time to be in the Mediterranean. Yeah, we're going to touch on some free agency stuff. A lot going on. Obviously, a bad time to stop doing some pods because there's a lot of things going on, but it's kind of hard to do them because every other week there is something else going on. But there's a lot of deals to go through, Pro, but we're just going to go through kind of the big numbers as far as free agency and extensions go, and then we'll kind of touch on every team real quick and just go through what's been going on there. But probably the biggest name was in the free agency market was Paul George going to Philly, 4 years, $212 million. Does it get it done for him, Pro? Does that get it done? Does that get them over the line?
Bogues, I don't exactly know. I mean, it's a big splash in free agency, obviously, to get him. And it was just a weird deal. Like, you know, the Clippers are owned by one of the richest men on the earth. And, you know, with Kawhi Leonard's injury history, not sealing up Paul George because they wanted to save some money on the apron was I don't know, it was a little weird to me. I'm not paying the bill, but that's a little crazy. On the Philly side, I mean, I think it's a big step up from what they had with Tobias Harris. Obviously, it's another go-to guy. You could spread out now with Maxey and Embiid and George, and then their role players are good. They get Oubre back. I think that they can contend. I think Boston's still a juggernaut, though, but I think that it puts them in the conversation. I think I could probably easily say they're above Milwaukee. I'm not sure if this puts them ahead of New York, but I think it'll be a dogfight for that 2 seed, in my opinion, in the East for sure. I mean, finishing 7th last year where they finished, obviously a lot of had to do with Embiid's injury, but I think it really propels them up to home court advantage for at least the first round of the playoffs. Could challenge Boston for one. I don't think it would, but at least it puts them in that 2 conversation. What do you think?
It's interesting they let him walk completely, right? They got nothing back in return, no sign and trade, right? And there were reports that Golden State had put together a decent sign and trade to try and get something done. They obviously didn't want to move him to their division, conference and division. Draymond was a little salty about that, I believe, but yeah, it was just interesting they let him walk, like you said. Didn't want to pay the money. They've locked up Harden in all that. Well, I got his number a little bit later on. 2 years, $70 million. But yeah, you're riding a lot on Kawhi Leonard being healthy, which hasn't unfortunately been the case for a good part of 5 years now, especially with the Clippers. But I think for Philly, it's a good deal. I agree with you. It puts them up at 2, 3, maybe 4. If they're not playing that well, but I think what it does for him, not only offensively but defensively, I think PG is obviously a very good defender. Another long, lengthy wing for him, a super upgrade on Tobias Harris. You can go small ball lineups with PG at the 4 and really kind of put pressure on whoever's guarding Embiid that you can't help off him. So I like it for them. I think it's a good one. Then they just got to see if they can get it done. I mean, the question is, can Embiid accept another guy scoring 40 on a given night, as we'll get into later with Team USA and his comments around that.
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be interesting. But I think that, look, if you want to, I mean, it's easy for us to say if he wants to win. No one knows. No one's in the building but that we know of. But I think for Embiid, it just takes a lot off his plate, which is great. And, he does stat chase a little bit, probably more than a little bit, but I think having George and Maxey, it puts a lot of less pressure on him. And even Caleb Martin, Eric Gordon, Oubre.
Caleb Martin
like,
signing was a good signing. I like that signing as well. Yeah. I definitely like that signing. But I just think that, the MVP numbers probably go down a little bit, with having another solid all-star, potential Hall of Famer on your squad. So it'd be interesting to see how Embiid handles that challenge, but they definitely should win more. Tatum, 5 years, $315 million with, I think if he hits all his markers, which is an amazing amount of money. Derek White, 4 years, 118. So Boston's tax, I mean, you probably got it's going to be absolutely insane pretty soon. Nick Claxton, 4 years, 100 million. Miles Bridges, 3 years, 75 million. That was an interesting one, bro. 3 years, 75 million out of the league for
Claxton.
Sorry?
For Claxton?
No, Claxton's 4 years, 100. Miles Bridges, 3 years, 75.
Oh, Bridges.
Yeah, after he was out for 18, was it 18 months or a season? Just under?
Did he play at the end of last year?
I think he played at the end of last year.
Did he? Okay, yeah. So, the domestic violence issue, but they've paid him. And look, he's outside of all the bullshit off the court and domestic violence and all that, he's still a tremendous player. But, Claxton, 4 years, 100 million. Evan Mobley, 5 years, 224 million. So, what are your thoughts on this one, Pro? Young, talented, long athletic, nowhere near his ceiling, kind of putting it together. Showed a glimpse in the playoffs of what he can do. Probably more at that 5 spot, to be honest with you. But small market, they kind of have to do it, right? Being in a small market. But this was a huge cash splash for Evan Mobley.
Yeah, Bogues, I don't know. I mean, I think that with the new TV deal coming in, and those numbers are going to go up with as far as the threshold in a few years. Obviously, it's not gonna happen right now, but I think that trying to solidify their team with signing Mitchell first, having Garland there, and then shoring it up with Mobley. You don't know what's going to happen with Jared Allen. I mean, look, they're not the type of team that you could just like let one of their top 2 guys go and then just get something back for it. I think you just shore everybody up, let's go to work with it. And, Mobley's one of those guys, he was hurt, he's just got to stay healthy. But with Mitchell and Mobley, they're top 2 right there. And then you got Allen, Garland, they got to upgrade that bench at some point. I guess their best 2, best 3 players are LeVert and Yang and Okoro, but I think they really just have to, I mean, if you lose Mobley and you're only going to get draft picks back, or you're going to get some other players that aren't going to be as good as him, I think they're just gonna keep on circling the drain. I think now with this group of players they have, at least they could build on it a little bit. I think the East from like 4 down is wide open. And you got a lot of guys like Indiana's chasing it, Orlando's chasing it, those 2 teams, especially
Miami will be in the mix.
It drops off the East, and we'll talk about that at some other point. But I mean, it's a wasteland after you get to like 6 or 7. But you get some guys chasing you, so I think this solidifies them at 4-5. Signing Mitchell and signing Mobley.
Yeah, just a big splash for a young guy, but there's a lot of talent and potential in that signing. Clay, 3 years, 50 million. So we'll get into that one later on, but a controversial one there. Cade Cunningham, 5 years, 224. Tobias Harris, 2 years, 52 to Detroit. Siakam, 4 years, 190. Harden, 2 years, 70. LeBron, 2 years, 104 million. Bam, 3 years, 166. Anobi, 5 years, 5 years, 212. Brunson, 5 years, 156 pro. Now, this one's interesting because he took a huge discount to try and have the whole Villanova crew sign there, and commendable by him, leaving all that money on the table, Pro.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen's just a winner. And I think that at one end you could say, wow, he did sacrifice a lot of money for this. But, I mean, first of all, he makes a shitload of money. And his contract's really big. He's made money. I think that in his eyes, again, without knowing anything, just sort of just talking what I think, he probably thinks, look, I'm making enough money. I'm king of the city. instead of like being selfish, taking extra money, and then it's going to stop us from signing somebody else. I could bring everybody else in. I could bring another player in with me. We could win. I could still make my money. Everybody loves the guy. I mean, how can't you love the guy and how he plays? It is a sacrifice for sure. I think 95% of the league, if not more, wouldn't do the same thing that he did. But I think he feels as though, I mean, it ain't like he went from 40 million to 12 million. I mean, he's making a lot of money right now. And I think that it solidifies that, him making great money on his deal, as well as being able to bring in an additional weapon or two. Because once you start getting into those aprons, is really, it really handcuffs the team as far as what they can do. And, I mean, the working man is going to say the guy's making 34, 37, 40, and 43. I don't think he's going to be suffering, asking for change at the train station.
It's one less Bugatti a month. But
yeah.
Other than that, but no, still commendable in today's day and age.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it because the competitor in you is you want to make, especially if you're a better player on the team, you want to be paid accordingly. Franz Wagner, 5 years, 225 with Orlando was an interesting one. He got the full bag there. KCP, Caldwell Pope, 3 years, 66 million goes to Orlando as well. Maxey, 204 million for 5 years. Malik Monk, really good bench player over there in Sacramento, 4 years, 78. DeMar DeRozan, 3 years, 74. Arrived there in the trade, which we'll touch on later, to Sacramento. Scotty Barnes, 5 years, 225, had to do it. And quickly was the interesting one for that squad, 5 years, 175 pro. So he got a nice little payday. Want to touch on any of those?
I mean, whichever one you want to, we did weigh off a lot of them. Which one do you want to talk about, Bogues?
I'm easy. I'm just going through them for the people, so I don't need to get into them. I just want to know if you know about the biggest free agency signing of the off season so far, pro.
Who is? Is that a trivia question to me?
It is. Who is the biggest?
Quote, was Jaylen Brown's deal?
No. Quote. A self-anointed historical deal, pro.
Oh, is it LeBron?
No, it was Patrick Beverley.
Patrick Beverley. My fault.
Self-anointed historical deal was the announcement before the announcement came out. Historical deal for Pat Beverley in Europe. Two problems. It's a 2-year, $4 million deal, so it's not a historically high deal. I don't think it's the highest deal in Europe over time. Second problem, Israel, the league he's playing in, Hapoel Tel Aviv, is not in Europe. So the self-anointed historical deal by Pat Beverley has somewhat a backfire before it even started. But I had a little chuckle at that. Yes, they do play in the EuroLeague, teams from Israel too, but just word to wise. I had people thinking in the NBA for a long time I was from Europe, that Australia was, there was a phase in the NBA and even in college that anyone from overseas was European for some reason. I don't know why.
A question.
Yao Ming was European at one point. Like, it was kind of crazy, but yeah, Pat Bever's actually gone over there. I think probably a lot of things have dried up. I know he's got that podcast deal that he's making good money out of. Smells Amari-ish, this move, pro. So maybe broadening his horizons. Maybe in a month or two, he will be on Ancestry.com, and we'll find 10% of him. His loin is Jewish, from the mean streets of Chicago. Who knows? But good little marketing thing for Pat Bev. But yeah, not in Europe, pro.
No, not in Europe. And it is an interesting, self-appointed. There's been some great deals in Europe, and trust me, that's probably that's probably like the 80th highest I've heard of. Historical. No offense to him.
Yeah,
I don't know. He did play in Europe early on. I think he played, if I'm not mistaken, Zalgiris, or maybe he played in the Ukraine
he started in
of
Ukraine.
college.
Yep, started in Ukraine, and then I think he went to Olympiacos, maybe?
No, I want to say Russia maybe after that, if I'm not mistaken. One of those Russian teams. And then I think he went to Miami. Was it Miami from there? I forgot what team he started with, and then he just started playing well.
Olympiacos, St. Petersburg, and then a little stint in Houston from 2013, yeah.
Houston. Yep. That's right.
He started in Ukraine, though, right?
Dnipro?
Yeah, started in Ukraine,
Yep.
yeah. Anyway, best of luck to him. Just going through the teams, Pro, real quick. Stop me whenever you like, but we're going to touch on some of these. The Atlanta Hawks. I happened to be at Boomer's training camp when this trade went down, which kind of blindsided everyone. Dyson Daniels joins the team. He was in that DeJounte Murray trade. So Dyson Daniels with the Atlanta Hawks. EJ Liddell joins via trade as well with Larry Nance Jr., Cody Zeller as well. And they lose Sadiq Bey, AJ Griffin, and DeJounte Murray. I don't expect much from the Hawks next season. Still kind of in a I wouldn't say they're in a weird position. They're in that circle in the drain in the East, 4 to cliff edge. But with Trae Young healthy, that they should be better than they are. But I don't love their roster. I think they're still going to be down towards the bottom half of the East.
Yeah, and the problem with them is I don't think the trade market for Trae Young, in my opinion, is going to bring him back a huge bucket of assets and things. In my opinion, I think you'll get something, but it's not like you're trading a big time talent. He is a really good player. I just don't know what you're going to get back for him. And then, Clint Capella, you got new management. So, you got the number 1 pick. I don't know what he's going to do. You got Bogdanovich. He's going to be expiring soon. You just get all these guys. I think they're just going to start. I think you're going to start selling off that roster in the next 18 months. And just I predict by next summer, Trae Young will be somewhere else, if not a trade deadline. Although you do need a star, though, that's the one thing. And he is their best player. So I don't know what you do, Bogues. In my opinion, you probably move him. But like I said, just the same thing, we just talked about. If you're going to try to move somebody and you're not going to get equal value back and you're just going to get all these draft picks and things, then you're going to be missing out. You got ticket sales to think about. You got value.
Especially
so
Atlanta.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting. I just, now if I was them with Cooper Flagg coming through the ranks in next draft, I mean, I'd be selling off everybody and just trying to get to that number 1 pick. I mean, the guy. Yeah, that guy with his left hand would have been the number 1 pick in this year's draft. If you cut off the guy's right arm, he would have been the number 1 pick. It wouldn't even been close. So
I think really well in that USA game, right? Like
he played well. I saw him at a Nike EYBL event last year in Dallas, and man, he just plays hard. He really good, knows how to play. I don't know how great he's going to be, but he's going to be really, really good. And the guy just goes hard, plays offense, plays defense. He's smart. He's a good player. So if I'm them, I mean, because you know how these drafts go, one's really good, then the next 1 or 2, you don't really get anybody. If I'm them, yeah, I mean, I'd probably sell it off now, but it is hard because you just won't have anybody. You'll literally, if you trade off Trae Young and you keep the team that you have now, you're a glorified G League team. It's going to be a tough deal. Do you just go all in for Cooper Flagg, or do you just keep circling the drain here? Because, this roster Howard's constructed, in my opinion, I think they're a play-in team at best, at the end of that play-in.
They're in the worst part of where you want to be as a club. They're fringe playoff, kind of fringe, and then you miss out on picks if you're fringe playoff. You don't want to be in that spot. Yeah. Boston Celtics, we don't need to talk about them, but they had a great offseason without making any moves. They just re-signed all their guys. Yeah. Derek White re-signs, Tillman, Tatum, Hauser, Quader, and Cornette all re-signed. So they're getting that train back together for another championship run. The Brooklyn Nets, Nick Claxton, Keon Johnson, and Trendon Watford all return on new deals. They add Bogdanovich, Milton, and Zaire Williams from the Grizzlies, and they lose Mikal Bridges to the Knicks, and Diop goes in that sign and trade to the Knicks. So they're kind of in somewhat rebuild mode by moving on Bridges. Bogdanovich, hurt last season. I don't think they're going to be very good neither. So they're going to be kind of towards the bottom of the table. Charlotte Hornets, much the same. I don't think they'll be very good, but they re-sign Bridges. They bring back former native Seth Curry, grew up in Charlotte. So they bring him back to his former hometown. They also bring in Taj Gibson. Josh Green, Australian, gets traded there during camp as well while I was there, which was interesting. And Reggie Jackson via trade with the Nuggets. So they also won't be very good, but Josh Green does get more of an opportunity. Dallas kind of up and down, in and out of lineups, plays 20 minutes one night, five the next. They were kind of pretty deep, and they could have multiple guys in that position. So he'll have a little bit more of a go there, but they also won't be pretty good. Won't be very good. Chicago Bulls. Patrick Williams returns on a 5-year deal. Chris Duarte, Josh Giddey, Jalen Smith all added. They lose Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, and Andre Drummond. So a good spot for Giddey. I think the ball's going to be in his hands a lot more. They do have White there who likes the ball in his hands too. But I think this was always going to happen, I think, judging upon how last season finished with OKC and Giddey's role. I think that he, I wouldn't say alienated, but just they didn't play him late in games, didn't play a lot in the playoffs.
Can't trust him, Bogues. You can't trust him if he can't make shots. It's really hard to play him. You know that. It just, his playmaking is great, but if you don't have shot making there consistently, and I mean, you saw some of those shots and the result of those, until you get that thing stabilized, it's going to be a tough deal. I think playing on a really bad team now in Chicago is going to help him. You know, not as much pressure. I mean, there's really nobody to replace him, so it's probably going to be him and Kobe White playing. They're probably going to try to move Zach LaVine for anything that they can get. And, you know, I think that will just sort of really help the situation of, you know, they got their young kid they drafted, Bazulis, in the draft. You know, you've got Gideon White, you know, Vucevic. You don't know what's going to happen. He'll probably keep him just because he's a good player and solid. But I think it's good for Giddey just because, you know, it was just going to get worse and worse in Oklahoma City because they need shooting, and it's just tough in this league if you can't consistently make shots. And you know, at times he made some improvements, but 33% from the three, still not, you know, not to where he needs to be. And look, he's got plenty of time. They're going to re-sign him. In my opinion, they'll go forward with him. But yeah.
And I think it helps to have the ball in your hands. Like you said, they're not going to be a great team. He's going to be able to play through mistakes. It makes a difference with his 3-point shooting, in my opinion, that when you're playing 30, the ball's in your hands, you get to the free throw line, you get in the paint, you're feeling good about yourself. That three is not as pressure heavy. I think towards the end with OKC, because he was playing limited minutes towards the end, and they were playing him off the ball a lot, I don't think he was as involved. You know, SGA was a guy there. So then all of a sudden it's swing, and you're not a great 3-point shooter. Those shots are hard sometimes to make for good 3-point shooters where you haven't touched it for a while. And I think that put a lot more pressure on him overthinking it. I think he'll shoot it better in Chicago. That's my pick, just because I think that he's going to be a bit more in the rhythm and flow of things and get some easy baskets for his confidence. So watch that space. Cavs, Mitchell Mobley re-signed. We've touched on them. The Dallas Mavericks. So Quinten Grimes, Najee Marshall, and Klay Thompson. And they lose Josh Green, Hardaway Jr., and Derek Jones Jr. Do you think they've gotten better? I think they do. I think they have. I think that, look, they've lost Jones Jr., a great wing defender for them, goes to the Clippers. But I think this is a perfect role for Klay if he buys into being that third wheel. I think in Golden State, it was in that period of him still coming to terms with no longer being that second guy, and I think he struggled with it at times. I think he's spoken about it. He had his ruts. He had his bad shooting nights. I think being the third option with two legit options before you, I think that's a perfect role for him in this system. You know, Luka comes off pick and roll. You got Kyrie on one wing and Klay on the other. And I wouldn't say cheap, but 3 years, 50, I think it's a pretty reasonable contract for Klay. You know, he's come off some injuries. He's not the Klay he once was, but he's still a player that can get you a quick 30 on a night where Kyrie and Luka don't have it going. So, but they did lose a bit of defense. I think Klay's still capable of being an okay defender, an average defender with his injuries. But how do you assess them so far, Pro?
Well, yeah, I mean, Jones was a guy that didn't need the ball in his hands. You know, it was sort of like a Dorian Finney-Smith for Luka. You know, he's a guy who just runs the floor, got him lobs, got him look-aheads in transition, lockdown defender, just not a consistent three-point threat. I think that's what Klay gives him. You just couldn't trust Jones. You can't trust PJ Washington to be consistent over a period of time. And I think Klay gives him that. Klay's not going to have any sort of say in it if he's, or care. I don't think he's going to really care much if he if he could accept that third role or not. I think that's just sort of expected, with Luka and Kyrie there, although Kyrie did break his hand. So it'll be interesting how long he's out for that. He just had surgery, I think, last week for that. I don't know how he broke his hand. I don't know if he's working out or playing or what have you, but, Clay is a guy that knocks down shots. He's a consummate pro, and defensively he's okay. Najee Marshall shoots the ball a little bit better than Jones did, although Jones had a lot of minutes and it was a huge role for that team. He's a really big time third, fourth option for them. So it'll be interesting. I thought they did get better. They already have their bench. You've got that two-headed monster at center with Gafford and Lively, coming back. PJ Washington is just, I think, one of those guys you expect the unexpected from him. You expect him just to sort of be okay and then to be non-existent at some nights as well. Maxi Kleber, but I think Marshall is a decent sign. He's a tough kid, New Orleans, and plays hard. And I think that he'll be a good addition. But I think with Clay, it gives him that that guy to throw it out of a double team, throw it out of the post, throw it out of the short roll, and he'll knock down shots. I mean, with all that stuff that went on last year, he was 38% on 9 attempts a game. I mean, he still was pretty locked in as a shot maker, just didn't do it at the level that he was doing it in the years past. But hey, it is what it is. People shift. And I think with Kyrie and Luka, if they could just continue to do what they did, drive, kick, move the ball a little bit more, and just have Clay now I think, as well, you've seen it with great players, in the last 30 years. You saw it with Jordan. You saw it with Kobe. Luka holding the ball, and people say, well, he dribbles too much. Sometimes you just don't have trust in some other people to make shots and make plays. So I think having a guy like Clay, the ball could move a little bit more because he knows he's going to swing it into a guy who's going to make a shot. So I think that would be good for them. There's a togetherness to that team that was really hard to match last year. And I think it really took them to the finals, because of that togetherness and that talent. Now you add Clay, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think it'll be a good season for them if everybody stays healthy.
Agree. I think they'll be right in the mix again, and just interesting if this puts them over the top and gets them back to potentially the finals. Denver Nuggets, not a whole lot there. Dario Saric agrees to a 2-year deal. Decent acquisition for them. Decent 3-point shooter they can put at the 4. Can play make a little bit through him as well. They lose KCP, which is probably a big loss for them. The way their salary cap is, they don't want to go and overpay. They lost a little bit of defense there, and they lose Reggie Jackson to Houston via trade.
Detroit Westbrook, and they're going to.
Has he officially signed? Yep. So he was traded to Utah and then waived, and so he's officially signed with Denver. So kind of much of a muchness with Reggie Jackson, in my opinion. Similar kind of players, energy-wise.
I think they're in decline. I think they're a steep decline, Bogues. I mean, last year they lost guys because of salary cap. This year you lose
KCP.
You lose KCP. And look, Westbrook. Westbrook at times, every 5 games, he'll give you 23, but he's going to shoot horrible percentages. I mean, 27 from 3 last year, under 70 from the line. It just is what it is. Look, he plays hard and everything. That's great, but they need shooting, and they need consistent shooting. Their bench didn't get better. I think Peyton Watson, who played great last year for them off the bench, but I think Christian Brown played well. They got a rookie, Trey Alexander, who's trying to make their team out of Creighton, who's not a bad player, but their bench isn't better. I just think that Miami is the same way. Like, you keep on losing these guys in free agency because you don't want to go into those. You don't want to go into those pockets of second apron and things like that. I think they're at around one. They're right around 173 as far as their cap number at 173 million. So, that's tough, man. That's a real tough deal.
That's where the Porter Jr. contract hurts you because they need more from him. They paid him that big amount of money. That's the one you look at and you're like, shit, would you rather keep KCP and add a few pieces around that? And, if you hadn't paid him, but they did,
Yeah. And Aaron Gordon's getting a little older and he's a little banged up a little bit. You lost Bruce Brown last summer. Now you lose KCP. Look, Westbrook's been in a bunch of teams and just, nothing against Westbrook. He'll play hard for you and all that, no doubt. But when you don't have shooting and you don't have a guy with a low IQ with playmaking, it's tough, man. It's a tough deal. Like, Porto gives you shoot. I mean, like their starting five's decent. Don't get me wrong. If Murray could stay healthy with Jokic and Gordon and Porter, but you start getting out of that, you start losing these pieces, these your seventh or eighth best player 2 years in a row, and you lost the top, probably a top 5 guy. KCP was probably their 5th best player, and you lose him, a guy who could
Jeff
knock
Green
down shots
the season
consistently.
before was good for him, so totally agree. So, I mean, the one good thing about Westbrook, he's a good cutter. He does move well off the ball because he kind of has to, not with his shooting.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see Jokic finding him a fair bit on some cutting stuff, but yeah, they do need some more shooting. Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham and Fontecchio re-sign. They lose Beasley. They add Malik Beasley, Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, Wendell Moore Jr., and Paul Reed. They lose Taj Gibson, Quinton Grimes, and James Wiseman departs to the Pacers. Which we'll get into that shortly. Nothing really there. They're in rebuild mode. Young guys stacking their roster, seeing how they go. Tobias Harris deal, I don't really understand why you would make that deal considering you're young and trying to build, but we'll see how that goes. Golden State Warriors, they re-signed no one on their roster, but they brought in Kyle Anderson, 3-year deal, Buddy Hield, sign and trade with the 76 via the 76ers. DeAnthony Melton, 1-year deal. Lindy Waters the third, trade via Thunder. They lose Chris Paul, Saric, and Klay Thompson. So they're kind of about where they were last season. You could argue maybe got a little bit worse. Slow-mo, Kyle Anderson, don't know how he fits in with the way they're trying to play. Buddy Hield, look, I don't know why his fall-off's been so heavy where he just fell out of rotations and hasn't played a lot, but he could definitely be, the cheaper alternative to Klay Thompson is probably what they're thinking, right? They lose Klay, they don't have to pay him, they bring him in on a cheaper number. So, but yeah, I don't see them making a whole lot of noise next season, bro.
No, I think. Well, the only thing that helps them hopefully is Wiggins get his everything lined up. Like last year, he missed a bunch of time for personal reasons. So maybe you can get a little bit more out of him. I think Tracy Jackson Davis, if he can make a little bit more of a jump, I think they have a lot of. I think they probably have some. Their sights set on him getting a little bit better, and then I think their season is really going to depend on Kuminga. Just to see how he plays because of the fact that he's got to develop. You're not going to get. I mean, I don't know how much more you're going to get out of Steph. I mean, 26, 5 and 5 is pretty damn great. Last year, you're not going to get a huge uptick there. Draymond's going to give you what Draymond gives you. Wiggins could probably give you a little bit more than he gave. And then without Klay, you got Buddy Hield who could probably be 70% of Klay. And then, Kyle Anderson gives you a locker room guy, gives you experience, gives you a smart, really high basketball IQ guy. Looney gives you what he gives you. Posminski, he was a good player last year, played hard, played tough. But you're right. I don't really expect them to make huge jumps. But look, if everybody could stay healthy, they are getting older. They probably could grind out some wins and, but it's tough. I mean, look how great that West is, man. I mean, like who's taking big jumps? I mean, big dives from last year. I mean, you look at it, you got Denver, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Clippers, Dallas, New Orleans, Phoenix, Lakers in front. So those are all the teams that are in front of them. I don't think there are many teams taking real big nosedives there. Maybe the Lakers do. And then you got Sacramento, who I thought did well in free agency. You got Houston, who's definitely going to get better, from last year. They could build on what they did last year. And then Memphis, remember, that was fool's gold at 27 wins because of all their injuries. Yeah. So it's going to be tough for them to get into that playing. They didn't really, but they're really strapped. I mean, what they can do, Bogues. I mean, right now I have them at 176 million for this year. Maybe I'm a little off on that, but you can't really do anything. They've got a decent tax bill. They got off CP, but still, like, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how much more they could have done. Now I've heard that they're trying to package in for some guys and make some trades. Podzimski, Kuminga, 2 guys that are mentioned in trades. They're trying to acquire a better player, but I just don't know who that player is. But I've heard they've been sneaking around trying to offer up for, to try to upgrade their roster. I just don't see, I think they're going to ask for. I think it was marketing. I think that marketing's one guy.
Yeah, that was the one.
Targeting for trade.
Yeah. Which wouldn't be the worst acquisition they can get him for not much. PG was the other one. Remember they can go after Zach LaVine, pro. We'll see what happens. Houston Rockets. Aaron Holiday returns on a 2-year deal. They lose AJ Griffin, so not much there, but just a young team building. Indiana Pacers, Siakam and Toppin return. They re-sign. James Wiseman is an addition. How do you think that will go with Rick Carlisle, pro? And Jalen Smith departs via free agency.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, for what they did last year, I mean, it's good that they get everybody back. It's just sort of like it's on autopilot now. They did lose Buddy Hield, which is actually they didn't lose Buddy Hield. I'm sorry, they had him a couple of that was 2 teams ago. But I mean, Wiseman just gives Miles Turner a little bit of an insurance policy. Obi Toppin played really well. That they did a really good job with him. Mathurin, was out most of the second half of the year, so that was a little bit tough. But man, they got their top 5 in, and they got most of their bench in. I think they're going to be good. I think Wiseman. Look, if Wiseman can just with Rick playing for Rick at that 5 spot, if he just screens, runs the floor, defends without fouling, gives him some type of rim protection, he'll be all right. He probably ain't going to touch the ball. They ain't going to throw it to him. But if he could sort of, and that's been his problem, just being a simple, rim running, screen setter, defend without fouling guy that could, pick up some rolls at the rim, offensive rebound, give him like 8 and 7. And I think he could be a great acquisition. He tries to isolate and try to score and try to play out of that role. Then, you'll probably see him. You'll probably see him being being 2-man game with Patrick Beverley by All-Star break. So who knows?
Yep, I'm interested in what Clippers, big turner on their roster. They re-sign James Harden. They had Mo Bamba, pro's favorite Mo, Nicholas Batum, Derek Jones Jr., Kevin Porter Jr., Chris Dunn. They lose Paul George, Mason Plumlee, Daniel Theis, and Russell Westbrook. So I spoke about them earlier, but they're kind of in that trying to dodge the salary cap stuff. They'll still be competitive, but it all comes down to Kawhi's injuries. The Lakers, Max Christie and LeBron James both return. No additions, so they are where they are, as we said. So they'll be somewhere in that little bubble area of planes. Maybe scratching a 7 or 8, best case, but I doubt it. Memphis Grizzlies, no re-signings. They add Mamadi Diakite from the Nets, and they lose Zaire Williams. So not a lot there. But as you said, fool's gold. They had a shitload of injuries. The Ja Morant distraction. They'll be better. They'll be in the mix. I think somewhere in, you'd probably say 5 to 8 in the West, but you just don't know. The West is so deep. But I have them somewhere around there, 5 to 10, 5 to 8. They'll be somewhat competitive. The Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo re-signs, Thomas Bryant returns, Haywood Highsmith and Kevin Love return. They add Alec Burks. They lose Caleb Martin and Orlando Robinson. So real disappointing season for them last year, pro. They definitely didn't do well as people would have thought. They couldn't flick the switch. They'll be okay. They'll be competitive, I think. Do you look to see them making moves, pro, in the trade market?
They're going to try, Bogues. I think if you pay attention to stuff long enough, you know that, look, you got to trade these guys before they start flatlining and before they start, before you got to start giving out picks to get rid of these guys. And I think Jimmy Butler's sort of at that road. You obviously saw some of the stuff during the offseason with him and Pat Riley, some of the things that were said back and forth a little bit. I think, to me, you got to get off Butler. You got to get off Tyler Hero, and you build around Adebayo. You got Hawkes there. Like Bam's your guy. You start just building around him. Butler's not a guy. Look, he's not a guy that's probably going to take a lesser role, and he's getting up there in age. Tyler Hero, to me, I just think he's captain bad shot. He's just captain tough shot. Everything's a tough shot, sort of like a Zach LaVine type. Just tough shot. Talented kid, but I just think that you got to start. They got to start moving some of these pieces. Look, they're sort of where the Denver Nuggets were, in a sense. Made a deep run a couple of years back in the playoffs, and then now you're selling off pieces because of salary cap stuff, and you didn't have a great season last year. I just think that they got to try to find something to do here. I think, and I'm not sure on this, Bogues, I think their numbers at about $185 million next year, and I just don't see where hold on, maybe I got that salary wrong, but no, Trent, is Rozier at 25 million and 27 million, right? For the next 2 years?
Let me check for you, Pro. So would you move off Butler at the deadline then? Because he's up for contract, right? So you got to get you could lose
he's got a player option of 52 million next year. So I don't know, I don't know who's trading for him though, Trent, because of the fact that if he wants to move on, so what are you going to give Miami if this guy's got a play out, if he's got now
next season, maybe, this season's going to be hard.
Yeah. I don't know if you agree. I don't know if you could agree on that trade deadline to opt into his deal, but you got 48-7 coming up and then you got 52-4 in his player option. So, I don't know what you do. To me, you build around Bam. You put some people around him. The one thing about that team was a little weird was how Terry Rozier played after the trade deadline when they got him from Charlotte, and he just played really, really badly. Probably like half of his games at least for Miami. And you know how it is. You go from one role in Charlotte to another role in Miami. But I mean, if they can get Rozier playing the way, the all-star level talent that he is, not exactly an all-star, but a, guy that could put up numbers for you. I just think you get off a hero. Maybe you keep Butler if you could just sort of, maintain the ship. I just think it's going to go bad in my opinion, but who knows?
The problem is, where does Butler go?
If
you're a young team, I wouldn't bring in a Butler in that locker room dynamic of a young rebuilding team. So then you're like, where do you put him? Even if you do move him, it's you don't go to a young team in Atlanta or Charlotte or even a Memphis to an extent. Maybe a Memphis, I don't know if they can. But it's he's a polarizing figure in that locker room, right? And you just don't. I don't think you want him with a young rebuilding team. So it will be interesting to see what they do. But I think probably move him, to your question, Trent. I think probably not this season. I think if they do it, it'll be if he opts in. But then Miami in that conundrum of, if he doesn't opt in, does he walk? And they get nothing back for him, right? But they need to find a team that was willing to absorb the 47 this season and 52 next season. That's the tough part. That's where those player options can really fuck teams over. And if this was his expiring contract this year, then you've got leverage because the team would want to absorb it to get it off the books next season. Whereas right now you don't have that option. But Milwaukee Bucks additions: Taurean Prince, DeLon Wright, Gary Trent Jr. They lose Malik Beasley. He goes to the Pistons. So Gary Trent Jr., I think he's a good pickup. They got him for relatively, wasn't a lot of money. I think 10 million or something like that, or even less. He's a volume scorer that can get going quickly. So like him off the bench. DeLon Wright, solid defender, was okay for Miami in stints last season in limited minutes. And Taurean Prince is decent as well. Minnesota Timberwolves, Luka Garza returns on a 2-year deal. PJ Dozier, 1-year deal, and Joe Ingles scratches another year in the NBA books. So departs Orlando. I think once the KCP thing was announced, I think another wing, 3-point shooting, defending wing. Joe's kind of time was limited in Orlando. He picks up another contract there. They lose Kyle Anderson, Jordan McLaughlin, Wendell Moore, and Monte Morris. New Orleans Pelicans, no re-signings. They do add Daniel Tice and DeJounte Murray. So interesting pickup there, how that's all going to work. They lose Dyson Daniels, EJ Liddell, Najee Marshall, Larry Nance Jr., Valanciunas, who's going to the Wizards, and Cody Zeller. DeJounte Murray, how does that fit in New Orleans?
Well, they never really had a real point guard as it is. I mean, I think they mostly played McCollum there, so it's just business as usual for those guys. Play him and McCollum together. You got Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones, is obviously with Zion.
Good wings.
I don't know who they're going to play at 5, Bogues. That's the thing.
It's got to be Zion, doesn't it? We've spoken about it for years. Like, surely at this point, you just go, like, he's strong and physical, and no one's posting up these days anyway. But if you do get posted at the 5, maybe an Embiid causes him problems, undersized, but he's strong enough and wide enough to be a decent post defender spatially.
Yeah.
And you're going to cause problems at the other end. And his 3-point shooting at the 4, it's just kind of like those lineups with him and Valanciunas just were kind of like, ugh, at times, like you limit your spacing. There's not a whole lot you can do there in the paint. But I think you have him at the 5. At big minutes, it opens up a lot for that squad. Those 2 wings you spoke about in Jones and And then you got McCollum and DeJounte Murray. You know, you got a lot you can do there. I think they're maybe looking towards that, or maybe they got something in the pipeline. Who's their backup center right now? Who is it?
They got Dice and
Tice.
Miss, the kid.
Yeah.
I think they had Tice and the kid Missy. I believe they just drafted him with the 21st pick, although I don't think they'll start him, but who knows? That's the one thing with Zion, you don't get that rim protection if that's what you're married to. But I agree with you. I think they should go Zion or 5 and try it out and see what they got there. But it'll be an interesting deal there, definitely, you know, with the makeup of the team. But look, you got better offensively with Murray. Valanciunas gave you a little bit toughness. You lost him, but with Murray, you know, CJ, you do spread it out. And again, you don't know what's going to happen with Ingram. Is he going to be with your team? Is he not going to be with your team?
How do we forget him? Yeah. Well, he's a free agent.
Yeah, so
he was linked to a lot of trades with Milwaukee and stuff this offseason. Like, there was a lot of
he's got a year left?
Yeah, I think he's got one more. Because he resigned a big deal, did he not, with the Pelicans?
Early on, right? Yeah.
So I think he's got a couple years left.
I don't think he re-signed. I think he wants a certain amount of money, and there was a stalemate there, I believe.
So yeah, you're right. It expires at the end of the season.
Yeah, because they're talking big numbers. He's saying he wants to be paid close to the max or something like that, like a 5-year 180.
He's at 36 right now.
Yeah, so yeah, that'll be interesting as well. He's a big piece to them as well, and just him and CJ haven't fit well, I don't think, and we've spoken about that last season. I think they play two different styles with CJ in and CJ out. I think them getting up the floor, up and in, denying the wings, and pushing the pace really was kind of the way they played when CJ was hurt that 1 year. Where I can't remember if he broke his hand or whatever, and then.
Lungs, I think it was
lungs,
right?
Or whatever it was, and then he came back, and then he's just a slower, more half-court pace point guard, 1-2, right, scoring guard that wants to play a slower style, right? So I don't know. They're an interesting team. I think they can be a decent team if they put it together. But they do need another big. The Knicks Anunoby returns, Brunson returns. They bring in Bridges, Bates Diop, and Campaign. They lose Bogdanovic, Burks, Diakite, Hardenstein, and Milton. I think they had a great offseason, I think, for the most part. They still have a bit of a worry at that 5 spot, but I think they had a really good offseason, and I think they've gotten better.
Yeah, if Mitchell Robinson could stay healthy, I think they'll be okay. You got to figure out what you do with Randall. You know, he is a high usage, high touch player that needs the ball in his hands to be successful. I think they figure out what most teams do. When you have a guy like that dominates the ball and you take him out of the equation, and he was good for them, and no doubt about it, statistically he was good. But I think when you take him out of the lineup and you put a guy like Hardenstein in, you know, at the 5, you lost Mitchell Robinson too. Hardenstein, you know, has that short role, plays good defense, you know, more of an energy guy than Randall is. Randall gives you more scoring, you know, and things like that. But now you have, you know, Brunson, Bridges, OG, you know, you got Josh Hart in there. It'll be an interesting set with, you know, DiVincenzo as well. Like, it just spreads you out, and they could do a lot more. Now, do you move Randall? The question is, again, just like you ask, you know, talk about Minnesota with Towns, like, what's the trade market for Randall? What can you get? Can you just get Towns? Can you get someone else? Is someone else going to want him? Do you keep him? I mean, obviously they're not pressed to do anything at this point, but I think they're tough to stop, man. They're together. They play hard. They're very, very well coached. Their bench is pretty good. So they have a little bit of depth there, you know, shot making. Without Hardenstein, though, that is a big loss. You know, $30 million a year, though, is a lot to pay for the guy. And
yeah,
obviously they couldn't do it.
Robinson at the 5 is a concern. I love him. If you knew he was playing, you know, 70, 80 games at 25 minutes, no problem. They're good, but he's had for a young career, he's been hurt a lot early on, and that's where.
But but you can also maybe go Randall at 5.
Yeah.
You know, you've got maybe a lineup of Brunson, Bridges, OG, and Hart. And then, you know, you play Randall at 5 and see what happens there. I don't know. I mean, they obviously in the playoffs, I think everybody played every position just because of it was all hands on deck with the injury stuff. But I think they're a tough team. I think they're going to challenge Boston. I don't think obviously they're not. I think they're going to challenge in that, if they can get lucky in a playoff series, and go final and be healthy in that, and maybe have some wind behind them. But they're a good team. They're obviously battle tested. They had a great playoff run last year, and it'll be an interesting run this year. But you're right, that 5 position, with Hartenstein, losing him in free agency was a huge loss. But they also didn't have Randall a lot of the second half of the year as well. So it'll be an interesting year for them.
I agree. Yeah, the Randall thing's going to be very interesting to see what they do, and if Randall can kind of buy into a role on that squad, it's going to be interesting. Like you said, high usage guy, needs the ball to be effective. Can he be effective some nights, not getting those touches because other guys are hot? But defensively, they can be really good too. I love the wings, length, size. They got some dogs in multiple positions. So looking forward to seeing them go. Oklahoma City Thunder, Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins both return. Caruso, Hardenstein acquired. They lose Giddy and Lindy Waters. I think they had a pretty good offseason. I think Caruso is a great acquisition there, and Hardenstein's going to be really good for what they're trying to do there. So I think they've had a really good offseason. I'll get into them a little bit later. Orlando Magic, Gorga Bitizde has re-signed. Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, both Wagner brothers have re-signed. They also bring in KCP and Corey Joseph, and they lose Joe Ingles. The Philadelphia 76ers, Kyle Lowry, KJ Martin, Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre Jr. all returning. They add Andre Drummond, Paul George, Eric Gordon, and Caleb Martin. They lose Batum, Mo Bamba, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, Campaign, and Paul Reed. I think they've had a good offseason too. Not even outside of the PG thing. I think re-signing Maxey, obviously. Lowry, good vet, probably on a minimum deal. KJ Martin, okay, but Drummond brings you some size to back up, if Embiid's out for a while. And Drummond's done a fantastic job, by the way, of being on teams as a backup big and then getting a stint of 10 games starting because their big gets hurt, and he actually puts up some pretty big numbers. Eric Gordon, towards the end of his career, great shooting, and Caleb Martin, some toughness. So I think they've had a pretty good offseason, Pro.
Yeah, we'll get into them. We'll get into them a little later, but yeah, I think they did well. I mean, obviously, besides the George deal, I think that with Caleb Martin shooting, you got Oubre back, you got Gordon. Drummond just gives them some stability and just some insurance just in case Embiid's got to sit out, which you probably, he's done almost every year. So I think, it gives you some insurance there. And then Eric Gordon's good. I think they did a good job, and obviously re-signing their guys. It'd be interesting to see if they're going to start Lowry and Maxey together and just, give you that 2-point guard look. Or you bring Lowry off the bench and you start, some more shooting with Oubre or Gordon. I don't know what you do, but they'll have some good lineups there. They'll have some interesting deals. I think that they did a good job for sure.
Solid for sure. Phoenix re-sign Bobo, Damian Lee, Josh Okogie, Royce O'Neal, additions Monte Morris and Mason Plumlee, and they lose Drew Eubanks and Eric Gordon. So deck chairs Titanic, don't really need to get into them too much. Not much that is really going to move the needle for them too much, as they still ride on their quote-unquote big three to be successful. Portland Trailblazers have re-signed no one. Addition of Denny Avdia, which was a trade with the Wizards, and Malcolm Brogdon. They bring in Avdia and they lose Brogdon to the Wizards. So not a lot of positive signs in Portland. I think it's still going to be pretty average. Sacramento Kings, they re-sign Alex Len and Malik Monk. Great re-signing Malik Monk. I think he's fantastic for him. One of the best bench players in the league. They bring in DeMar DeRozan, Jalen McDaniels, and Jordan McLaughlin. They lose Harrison Barnes, our guy, Chris Duarte, Devion Mitchell, and Sasha Vezenkov. So decent offseason for them, some would say. I mean, DeRozan, still the jury's out on can he be a long-term piece for winning. I like the return of Malik Monk there to get that done. But they'll be solid, competitive. Got new guys to stay healthy, De'Aaron Fox and Herder and a few other guys, but they'll be okay. But they had I think you'd say Sabonis as well. Let's not forget. But they had probably a disappointing end to last season. I think they definitely should have been in the mix a little bit more. We thought they'd all bounce from that, finally making the playoffs. They got the hoodoo off the back, and then they just probably had a worse season to follow, Pro.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hottest part about having a little bit of success in the regular season or even in the playoffs one year, is they expect it every year. And it's hard to keep up with. It's just a hard deal to keep up with. And you finish 10th. You can't it's just a really tough deal to finish 10th in the West and expect to make a big jump. You gotta continue to fight it all the time. And it's just tough. They got good young players, but you got to be able to put it together in every game and every day and try to get better and push through and push through. They got a nice little group, last year with Harrison, but you got De'Aaron Fox, you got Herter, you got Sabonis, Keegan Murray, he's made some, development and pushing his game. But there's a lot of expectations when you do well and you win a lot of games in regular season. And last year was definitely a down year. And, they try to pick it up with the signing of DeRozan now. Can he fit in? Fox needs the ball a lot. Sabonis needs the ball a lot. Keegan Murray spreads you out. Monk's going to have the ball a lot, coming in the second unit. It'll be an interesting sort of experiment of how DeRozan's going to fit in. Obviously, he's a consummate pro. We'll put up 24, 5 and 4 last year. But, how does that sort of sink into what they do over there? And he doesn't give you he doesn't give you a lot of long range shooting, but obviously he's a mid range player, tries to get to the rim, does his thing there, heavy ISO guy. So how does that sort of go into Fox, their plan?
Though, yeah. Fox is the same kind of from the point guard. Like he's not, he'll have high assist games, but that's not his game. He's mid range, putting heat on the rim, very similar to DeRozan with the mid-range stuff. So that'll be interesting to see how those two kind of fit in and who's got the ball in their hands for the most part of games. But, they got some shooting around on the perimeter, but it's going to be interesting to see how that all fits. I think Monk's going to he's going to move the needle for them, I think, with how far they go, just because of the way he shoots the ball. Herter as well, in my opinion. San Antonio, Charles Bassey returns. Sandro Mamukelashvili returns agrees to a 1-year deal. They're bringing Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul, and they lose Devontae Graham. So 2 good veterans, I think, for the young fellow there to try and help get them back on track. Harrison, 2 years left on his deal, so obviously we'll want to be playing in some form. But 2 consummate professionals. You can see why they identified 2 guys they can bring in to help kind of nurture Wemby of being a pro and helping him get better and better. And obviously, Chris Paul still a little bit of juice left in the tank if his body can hold up. Harrison obviously needs to, I guess, kind of reestablish himself. A lot of people have, forgotten about him a little bit in Sacramento. Didn't have the best season last season. Got caught in trade rumors. And I think he's going to be looking to hopefully have a bounce back season.
Yeah, I know who's not going to forget about him, his fucking tax accountant. He's making $18 million this year and $19 million next year, so I think he'll be fine.
And you get a nice little raise, bro. You get a nice little Texas raise, baby. Moving from California.
Yeah,
I was part of that. It was great. You wake up in the morning and made yourself an extra $1 million.
No, not only did he move from California. All right, when you say California, you think beaches, sun, beautiful place. He was in Zombieville in fucking Sacramento. That's the Memphis of the West. No fucking chance.
Bro, he's moving to San Antonio, so it's not that much of an upgrade.
Well, it's a lot big upgrade for what he had to deal with.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Sacramento's, you literally at least the sun comes out and it's you're an hour and a half drive from the Bay.
You ever walk through downtown Sacramento?
Yeah, you don't live downtown. They live out in the boonies where the cows used to live. They built all those massive estates near the malls.
Bogues, you got to walk through casting called a zombie fucking apocalypse every day. Forget about it. No
one lives downtown though, bro. You know that.
Yeah, he's got the Alamo.
San Antonio that's not much better. San Antonio is not much better. Have you been downtown San Antonio? Yeah. They got that toilet bowl river walk. It's brown.
River walk. They got the river walk. Not about. Hey, much better than Sacramento.
I'm not saying much. We can debate. It's not much better. I reckon it's much of a muchness. I give San Antonio the nod for the taxes. You get 10% more in your bank account. Other than that, maybe some good Mexican food. Other than that, I don't know. Sacramento's not that bad. Don't forget, you can drive out of there and go down to the Bay, so.
No, even better. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What? You want some? Doing some experiments? You need some human feces to scoop up? No thanks. I'm
By
good
Bay,
with the
I
Bay,
mean East Bay. I'm an East Bayer.
Okay.
I didn't touch San Francisco. All right, we can move on from them. Toronto, Scotty Barnes, quickly, Temple all re-signed. They added Davion Mitchell and Vezenkov. They lose McDaniels and Gary Trent Jr. Rebuilding. Scotty Barnes out to do, so interested to see how his next step goes. Utah Jazz, Johnny Juzang has re-signed. Hold on 1 second as my screen crashes. You can edit this part out. Where are we at? Utah. All right. So Johnny Juzang re-signs. They add Drew Eubanks. They lose Omar Yetzvin was waived, and Chris Dunn goes to sign and trade to the Clippers. Not much to touch there. They're in full rebuild mode. I think they'll be very good. And the Wizards, much of the same. They get Holmes on a 2-year deal returning. Sadiq Bey, Brogdon, and Valanciunas they acquire, and they lose Avdia and Landry Shamet. So not much to talk about there, Pro, but let's 2 teams in the East and 2 teams in the West had the best offseason, Pro. I'll go first to beat you to it. Philly and New York for me in the East. You can do the West first, but I'll go Philly and New York in the East. I think Boston also, but we're just not talking about Boston because they've just brought back their squad. To bring back the same squad after a championship is super underrated. It doesn't happen a lot. We've seen a lot of teams try and save some money or be smart in certain areas. Denver, the Mavs back in the day after the championship, it's hard to do because you got to eat that salary the next season. So Boston, credit to them, but I think Philly and New York for me, Philly really kind of shored up, put some pieces around Embiid, and New York are just gonna. I think they got tougher if that's even possible. They were a tough, grindy team last season. Yes, you got to factor in Randall, but I think bringing in Bridges and some of the pieces they've got now in around that perimeter to be able to guard 1 through 5. I like those 2 teams, bro. Who you got?
Yeah, I got New York and Philly. I mean, the Boston thing, you're right. Sometimes you just want to even count that, even though it is underrated to re-sign your guys, and they're going all in with their spending. But I mean, I think that New York and Philly, they just sort of solidify what they're doing. They're bringing it. They brought in players that could make impact, and Philly made some big changes. I think they swapped around a lot of like second unit spots and things like that. They brought in some good players off the bench, as well as a couple of guys that'll be in the starting lineup. So, for sure. And then New York, they just got better. Everyone's saying that like with they trading all those picks away to Brooklyn, but I feel as though that with the teams that have done that in the past, they trade a lot of their future away. That they were sort of aged. That was like the last piece, and trading away all those picks and pick swaps and things like some other teams have done for big pieces in the past. I think New York is just sort of, they're young. I don't think they're, those picks aren't going to really be worth a lot. I don't think they're going to flip that roster. I think they're going to keep with it and they're going to build with it. So I like what they did. They gave up a lot for Bridges, but I think he's worth it. They're trying to win now, and those guys are going to be around as long as they stay healthy, knock on wood. I think it's a very good trade for them, and I don't think they gave up too much. I think they have the pieces now, and I think to contend with Boston. Hey, look, you never know with Boston with health. You never know with guys. Porzingis, you never know, and just to keep yourself competitive and get better, I think trading away those picks was a good. I think it was a good trade for them.
Who you got in the West?
All right, so the best 2 teams in the West for me, I would say Oklahoma City. I think they made. I think Oklahoma City definitely got better, definitely upgraded. That's the second team that's tough. I would say New Orleans, though.
Yeah,
I think depending on what they do with their roster, I think New Orleans, having DeJounte Murray, I think if they could find a way to keep Ingram and then just sort of roll with what they have, I think they're gonna be really good. I think Murray isn't a real point guard, but I think he could score. He gives you size out of that backcourt. Him and McCollum are gonna be tough to guard. If they could just stay healthy and together, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, OKC definitely. I think and that's not a knock on Giddey. I just think they've brought better role players around SGA and Hartenstein. And I did read a thing that I don't know if you saw this, but Hartenstein's gone from he was Zay in New York to now he's Hardy, or just Isaiah in OKC with his, with his nickname. But I think OKC is a no-brainer. Dallas or New Orleans is my second. I think I like the move for Dallas. I really do. I mean, they've lost some pieces, but Najee Marshall and Klay Thompson, I think bringing those two guys in, a third scorer, a legitimate third scorer. Like you said, Klay, as bad as a season people say he had last season, he was 18 points on 38% from three. So they can use that in Dallas, and that's what they were missing with the inconsistency with the PJ in Dallas, but OKC as well. You know, I think the Caruso is definitely going to help them. Just a tough, gritty guard. And then New Orleans, I think they're definitely in the mix. I think getting a solid point guard in there and just got to solidify a bit more size, but I think they'll definitely be in the mix.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma City addressed what they needed to address. I think once you saw in the playoffs, especially with Minnesota, having multiple defenders on the floor. Lou Dort's one of the best defending guards in wing players in the league, and now you add probably the best, if not top two or top three in Alex Caruso. So now you got two guys that can really guard, and as well as a guy that they, at Hartenstein, they really needed size. They needed to shore up that front court. They just weren't big enough and wide enough. Now they paid him a lot of money, but I mean, look, they haven't really taken a huge hit with the cap yet. So paying him $30 million, they're still pretty good with the cap. They're only at 153. And bring it in. Look, when you sort of center in and zone in on what you exactly need and bring that in, look, they're going to have to do the Giddey extension. They probably figured, look, we need to bring in a little bit. They got to get tougher, got to get bigger. We got defensively, we got this. And then do we want to pay Giddey $25 million, close to $30 million a year, or do we trade him off to get this piece, and then you sign Hartenstein for that money, and now you just shore up? I mean, look, you got your big three, and Shea, Jalen Williams, and Holmgren. Now you've got Dort, you've got Caruso, you've got Hartenstein, Cason Wallace was good for them, Isaiah Joe was good for them. So I like what they did. They just sort of shored up some of the things that they really need to address. I thought they had pretty good shooting. But they needed toughness. They needed defensively. They needed a guy who didn't need the ball, and they needed size. And I think they addressed all of that. So I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what eventuates once the season starts. But those are some teams that have had the best off season so far. Not a whole lot of, besides a few free agency moves, PG and whatnot. The free agency has been kind of pretty tame when it comes to trade stuff. So I think some stuff will ramp up once the season starts. And I think this is a potential for a lot of moves. The new salary cap coming in the next couple of years and the amount of spending, I think you'll see a lot of movement this trade deadline. All right, just a little bit of news, and then we'll get into some Olympic stuff. New Jersey hoping to lure the 76ers out of Philly has been an interesting one that came across the news wires a couple of days ago. Philly have a really good fan base. I think they draw a decent crowd. I doubt you'll see them moving, but New Jersey has the lure of building a brand new arena down there. I think the pro you mentioned offline that they practice out there already or down that way sometimes. So you never know what can happen. A free arena, and I know this is a ploy. I think Philly wants a new arena, correct? So there is a bit of leverage, either a new arena or a renovated arena. This is a bit of leverage posturing maybe by the owners and the group there to, whenever you go into a negotiation, it's always good to have a legitimate second option. How legitimate is it? Is it just used for leverage to get City of Philadelphia to fork out for some arena spending? Who knows? But there is a murmur that New Jersey could be viable for them to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think it's a ploy. I don't think they're going to move out of Philly, and they are in Camden, which is right across the water. So it's literally like in South Jersey, right near Philly, the Pennsylvania Philadelphia line there. So it's not, it's right there. It's like within probably like 20 minutes of the arena. But I think they're just trying to get leverage to try to get some, probably some things from the city and probably renovation and, and all of that. I don't really see them moving, but who knows these days, Bogues? I mean,
Seattle.
you can never say never.
You never know.
Yeah.
Seattle is a prime example. You just never know. You get some owner or someone on their board that just goes gung ho, and it becomes a pissing contest with a mayor or councillor, and it's like, you won't do it. We're going to call you a bluff, and they do it. You're just like, oh shit. So you never know. But I agree with you. I think it's definitely a leverage ploy. So the Celtics majority owner will be selling the share, Pros. Interesting one. Selling, but staying involved for 4 more years upon the sale, correct?
Yeah. So Wick Grossbeck has owned the team for about 20 years now. I think he came in about 03, 04, same time I came in. And he had a lot of ownership with them. They bought the team for about $365 million. So I think he put up, his dad put up a lot of the money. I think they put up about almost 40% ownership. And then it was 3 main owners. He was the main one. And then there was a couple other guys, Steve Pagluca and a couple other guys put up some decent money after that, probably 8 million, 10 million, 8 million and whatever. And then they had 21 people putting in about $1 million or so in for the sale. So he kept it for a while. And now right after they won the championship, they put it out there that he's going to sell. His dad probably wants a little bit of that investment back. I would think that, I would think that his share was about $270, $80 million or so. That's probably worth upwards of $3 billion now. So the dad's 90, probably just wants to sort of spend the money while he's still on earth. And, so he's going to sell and probably team's going to go upwards about $6 billion from what I've been told. And he gets to, run the team for 4 more years. So it's going to be in writing. I don't know what the Mark Cuban deal was when he sold the team. I know he's still director of basketball operations. He runs the show there, but I don't know if it's in writing or not, or a handshake deal. This deal is going to be in writing. So 4 more years. So now you're going to have to put up $6 billion, and then you're going to have to sort of, I think you'd have some say, but Wick would have most of the say for 4 more years. And that's probably going to run through their little dynasty run, or what they're trying to do. And by that time, you never know what's going to happen with the team. He probably has 4 more years in the show, trying to make probably probably hold that trophy one or two more times. And then after that, anyway, he makes a big chunk of change on his investment. And then, and then you never know what that team's going to be like with guys getting older and things happening. So it's actually pretty smart. If I was a guy selling these days, I'd do the same thing, especially if you're a good team. Run the show, don't have to have any of the headaches, run the show and spend your money. So that's sort of the deal there.
Yeah, interesting, just to stay on after you've sold it. So have to be a pretty willing new buyer for that. Basically, you're paying for it, but you won't touch it for 4 years. WNBA rights, they end up getting $2.2 billion over 11 years as part of the NBA deal for all the streaming services, ESPN and all that. But it's still not enough, Pro, correct?
Yeah, somebody, I don't know if it was a players association or just a spokesperson for the league was saying, well, I don't know how they value us at 200 million. We're worth much more. We've been in business 25 years. It's just unbelievable. Look, you got a $60 million rights deal now. You're gonna triple your income there. That's most of your money. You don't have a lot of sponsorship going on. You have your TV deal. It's $200 million. Again, they just don't understand that you're building this league brick by brick. And the NBA in their first 25 years, they didn't make money either, right? So you're sort of where the NBA was when they started. 25 years, and you're trying to just sort of scratch it up. And by the way, great job, Bogues, for not talking about Bronny James or Caitlin Clark in a podcast. 8,342,242 straight podcasts have been talked about Caitlin Clark and Bronny James, and we're the first one ever not to that's the first time I'll say first time ever. We're the first podcast in the history of podcasts not to talk about Bronny James or fucking Caitlin Clark in a podcast. Congrats on that.
Well, once ESPN posted a highlight of Bronny James fronting the post and getting a deflection, it was enough for me. I was done. I was like, look at this defense. It was like, are you fucking serious?
No doubt about it. But with them, they're doing well. Everything's going in a positive direction. But again, I guess like you always want to fight for yourself and that, but you're getting triple your money. Like now, like that max contract probably go from like 260,000 probably to about 2 million now. The average salary could probably jump up to close to like 300, probably like 150,000 from like 50,000. I mean, you could do some great things in the league right now. All the things, you blew 50 million a year on that, on the private jet stuff, for the next few years. Like now you're actually recouping some money, making some money, you're getting in close into the red. But again, it's not enough. But I think it says a lot about the NBA putting that money back into it. 200 million a year is no chump change. So it says some good things, but again, they keep on tripping over their own feet. Just be happy with it. It's good. You're moving in the right direction. There's a lot of steam coming behind you. You're getting a lot of play out of the Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese thing and all of this, but again, I guess it's just never enough, man.
Well, it's trending up. So they're clearly part of the NBA stuff. It'd be interesting to see if they got this deal without the NBA, what it would look like, because it's obviously leveraged off the back of the NBA. So people need to take that, with a grain of salt. This isn't really a WNBA deal as per such. You're under the NBA brand. I don't think it'd be anywhere near 2.2 billion, but it's trending up. I think everything takes time, and you look at the journey of the NBA. Where their journey has gone from once the league first started to where it is now. I think the WNBA is much further ahead in their journey than the NBA were 20 years into their league. So
to think about it, Bogues, like there's a lot. I mean, the last couple of years, we're talking about how bad financially the WNBA has been. Now, literally for the next 11 years, you could breathe. You don't have to worry about it. You're making everybody's life better with all that influx of cash coming in. You never know what's going to happen with sponsorships on top of that. So now you got this influx of cash. Just be happy. This is good stuff going forward. But in today's society, it's just never enough. We're always getting disrespected. I'd love to be fucking disrespected for $200 million a year. I really would. I just don't understand it. But that's just the world we live in, man.
Well, everyone wants what the big league is, and that's the NBA. We want what the NBA wants, but it takes time to get to that, and you got to look at the money you're bringing in and all that kind of stuff, and that league's been around 50, 60 years, so it makes a big difference. Let's get NBL international. We'll touch on NBL news real quick before we go to the Boomers, and then if you've got a fact or fake news, we'll do some research while we're doing this. But Trent can touch on most of this stuff. If you want to chime in on the Olympic stuff, you can, Pro. NBL, Mitch Creek gone, most likely to Asia. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, he will not be back. That's been known in circles for a couple of months. I assume the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix have held on to it for numerous different reasons, schedule release, ticket sales, all that kind of stuff, which is the way you do business. But I think it's been pretty well known for a while that he was going to depart. Jack McVeigh, two-way deal with Houston. What a 2 months this guy's had. Knocks down a crazy buzzer beater in the NBL Grand Final series, wins the NBL Grand Final MVP, makes the Boomers, albeit controversially to some, makes that squad, going over to his first Olympic Games, and then gets a two-way. So an amazing 2 months for him. For a guy who, when he first came to the NBL, didn't play. Didn't play. I think first 2 seasons didn't really play.
First 2 seasons barely
didn't play. And then he was the energy guy that would come in and make one shot and go crazy. And he's credit to him. His journey has been amazing, and he's played himself into, a two-way contract. So we'll see how that goes. Kyle Adnam has signed with Cairns. Adelaide 36ers, Trent, have signed 2 very credentialed assistant coaches, which I find very intriguing. Mike Wells, one, I think an American, a lot of coaching experience in the NBA and with Team USA, 3 decades of coaching experience in the US. And they've just signed Marko Marinovic, who is an assistant with the Serbian national team. So I don't know if you're Scott Ninnis, I wouldn't get too comfortable in your seat.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's the 36ers essentially already putting him in the hot seat before the season's even started?
So. Yeah. I mean, if I'm, Scott Ninnis, I'm looking over usually you're looking over one shoulder to one assistant. you're looking over both shoulders because they're both very credentialed guys, and maybe they're thinking, hey, we just want to make sure we've got some insurance policies because they're not completely sold. I know they lost out on Gorge. Some bastards came in and swooped in late, and I think they had all their marbles pushed there. But if I'm Ninnis, it's great to have credentialed assistant coaches, but you got to read between the lines sometimes.
It's also worrying. I feel like 36ers have this pattern of having like these weird toxic environments that they create themselves. Like it just feels like now there's going to be this animosity going into camp and stuff, and
it's going to be interesting.
Like they've already got the situation with DJ and Humphreys, and then like who's going to be the guy there, and it's like, I don't know. You add this to that mess, it's like, for me, it's going to be another point where we get halfway through the season and it's just like the 36ers are in, 7th, 6th place, and we're just kind of...
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I mean, I hope they do well. They haven't had a whole lot of success lately, but maybe they're just like, hey, we want to invest in our assistants, good for you, but worrying. Perth Wildcats have sold to lifelong Wildcats fan Mark Arena on a $40 million valuation. He has taken 52.5% of the club, so pretty decent valuation. Nice little earner for Hutchie. I think he paid 8 point something for it, or $9 million 4 or 5 years ago, so good little sale for Hutchie to get the SEN out of trouble with the banks who've been come knocking for some loans. So I think he has to get some cash, which is good. The NBL with Wallamai, who are part of the Sydney Kings with Robin Denholm, have purchased the WNBL. So that is, I don't know if it's officially the numbers have come through, but
I think the last release was around like a 30 or 60 day period to finalize it. So
yeah, so they will have majority as we understand it. I think the NBL is going to take over then the logistical side of things, which is smart. They've got everything in place for the NBL. It'll just be kind of cut and paste that for the WNBL, infrastructure, arenas, camera crews, media, all that kind of shit is all set up. So you don't have two separate units like BA had theirs and then the NBL had theirs. It's all going to be shared. And I think that's why the NBL was smart to get them involved. And then Robin Denholm, super passionate, along with her daughter Victoria Denholm, on the WNBL. So we'll watch that space. As of now, Victoria is running things for the Sydney Flames. So I think once this goes through, you obviously can't be the CEO of the Sydney Flames and the WNBL if that is the way it goes. So we'll be interested to see what journey they take there. But they're really passionate about women's sport and WNBL. So hopefully they can get them back on track. I think Basketball Australia is still going to hold on to 20-30%. Once bitten, twice shy. They don't want to do what they do with the NBL and sell it all off. So pretty smart to do that for their point of view. So if the league does boom, they've got a bit of interest in there, and they've still got arm's length, but it won't be. I believe it. They won't be running it. It'll be run by Wallamai and the NBL. Terry Koponen has been announced as the New Zealand Breakers head coach. So interesting one there. They always get some interesting coaches.
Yeah, they also just signed Sean Bairstow to a 2-year deal. I think the second year is an option as well. So that's another interesting one for them.
Yeah, out of college, right?
Yeah. He's a great player.
Watch that space, but yeah, the coaching stuff they do bring, and he's a good coach from everything. I think coached in Finland as well. I think.
Yeah. And how long do they sign him for?
I think it was 2-year deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that it matters if he has Asia out.
Yeah.
Like Modi. So, but yeah, they and there's a lot of relationships that I think Matt Walsh had playing in Europe for all those years. Former teammates, former coaches that he's dealt with. So they usually hit those acquisitions out of the park. Just to see how this one goes as well.
Yeah, I think it's a tough job for him, to be honest. The roster makeup's super interesting. It's a bit kind of like you could see with the Will McDowell-White situation, they were kind of holding on, but then once they realised he was gone, it didn't seem like they had those pieces in place, like plan B options or plan C. So they've kind of just grabbed guys like Bolden and McCarron and these guys, and I don't know necessarily how it's going to fit.
Well, the import's back, Cartwright.
The point guard,
but he was back.
Cheatham's gone. So like I just think it's a weird fit. Like, how does Cartwright and McCarron work together?
Well, he came back from Modi too, apparently. So I mean, and now he's gone.
Tough job for him going into that situation.
It is. The Boomers we haven't really touched on this, but the team was announced. A lot of controversy around it. The biggest one is Matisse Thybulle not making the team. Most people had him in. Now, look, if you have Matisse in this team, is it then putting us as gold medal favourites? No. So, there is a lot of extremes when you go online. But for most people, including myself and probably you, he was in our 12. But the Boomers have elected to go a different way. McVeigh sneaks a spot. Magne sneaks a spot. Probably those two guys no one had on the radar early on. And an interesting one. Interesting the way they've put the team together. I guess the lead-up games, I don't think early on the China games didn't look great. They've looked better once they got to Abu Dhabi and Europe, but still a bit clunky in portions. But yeah, the Tees one's probably the biggest one. The X one was interesting as well. A lot of people thought Brian Goorjian, bias, he's going to making that cut's probably the hardest one. Tees is a hard one, but for Gorge on a personal level, I think cutting X and now having to work with him for 9 months is an interesting one. So a real ballsy one there, and you got to say that whether you like it or not, or even as a Kings owner now, we're like, holy shit, like how's this relationship going to go? I think X will handle it fine. He's a professional. It makes it even more kind of that Gorge was picking at least that position with what he thought would work best. And with these national teams, a lot of picks go to what fits well. It's not necessarily always the most talented guys, but I think T's definitely hard done by in this one.
I completely agree. I think especially when you just look at what he does for us defensively, I understand we're a super strong defensive team and we've got guys that can kind of fill that role, but I just think he's so elite at what he does to not have him in the 12 is it's tough, yeah. I think everything else you can justify. You can at least put a reason behind every other pick. I think Matisse is the only one. It's hard for anyone to kind of wrap your head around why.
Yeah, it was a tough one, bro. That was big news over here, bro. So Matisse Thybulle cut from the 12. Most people had him as a lock and just didn't happen to make the squad.
Yeah, I mean, with United States stuff, there's always been a guy or two that gets cut. You like shaking your head about it. I mean, I thought Thybulle should have made it, but like you said, when you're constructing a team, sometimes you're thinking about other things. If you think defense wasn't going to be that much of a problem and you want to fill another need, then great. But I mean, having a young kid like that's battle tested in Olympic competition and plays well, good guy, obviously a high level defender, good athlete, good in transition. That 3-point line isn't at the NBA line, so you could probably be a little bit better at the three, in Olympic competition versus the NBA. Yeah, it was a little bit of a head scratcher to me too, but these guys, sometimes they just see it a little different, and we're not the ones making the decision, and it's just it was a little strange, no question about it.
Yeah, and just hopefully see him in a Boomers jersey in the future. But look, the games, I guess, wrapping those up, ups and downs. They've looked good in spurts, looked bad in spurts. I think we are buttering our bread defensively, in my opinion. I think offensively, I think we're still hot and cold and hit or miss. I don't love our offense at times because we do get clunky and then become ISO based to throw it to Paddy and get us a bucket. And Paddy's early on in the friendlies wasn't great, but I think the last couple of games has found his shot a little bit. But that's a dangerous diet of if you continuously do that, you're going to eventually get shot in the foot. But I think we're gonna if we can continue to play the way we're playing defensively, that's what's impressed me most. We've got wings, we've got length, we've got size, we've got smarts, we're getting up and in, we're physical. We've gone away from the World Cup switching 1 through 5, 1 through 4, like the copycat of what everyone else is doing, and we've gone to a hard show physical at basically all points of the half court, which is interesting. It's risky. Even at half court, we're jumping out and showing our chest. So I like that because it's really given an aggressive mindset to us starting out games, not kind of let's see how things are going to go and then make the adjustment. We're going to hit you straight away. But offensively, I think our offense is dictated to how we shoot the three ball. And most teams is similar, but us especially. If we're shooting the ball in the mid to high 30s at a minimum, I think we've got a chance to do something special. If we have games where we go, 4 for 18 like we saw in a couple of the China games, and I think was it the USA game, we didn't shoot. I think it was the USA. Yeah, we could make a shot, right? That's when all of a sudden we're going to have a 15-point deficit at half that we're going to catch back. I don't think we have enough offense to get that back quickly. So I think I think playing in the 20s every quarter, game finishes around the 80s is super in our favor. I think once we start pushing, if we get caught in that up and down tempo of a Canada or US, even South Sudan, if we have, not that we'll face them, but those kind of styles of play, that's not in our favor. I think we do want to run and get out in the open floor, but smartly. But I think we want to play in that whole grind, half court where we can really guard you and then get out and run, try to get an easy basket. But if we try to get offense versus offense, if that makes sense, even though we want to run, if we go offense versus offense, we're in the 100s, 105s, 110s, it doesn't work in our favor. But I think also not having lineups solidified yet, watching these last couple of friendlies leading to the Olympics, I still don't have a feel for who's our go-to lineup right now. We've got our starting lineup, but we've finished games differently. We saw Jock Landale benched for the second half of the last game, didn't play a minute. Don't know if there's an injury concern there or what's going on. Dante, believe dislocated finger, should be okay to play, to take that thing up, but not something you want to go into an Olympics with. Magne's come out and stole some minutes. Reith's hasn't played a lot. McVeigh's probably played more than Reith at times. So there's a bunch of question marks. Joe Ingles and Delhi have probably been the two guys that have played real spot limited minutes. So I think you assume they're 11 and 12. But it will be interesting to see kind of what is our 8 or 9. I still don't know to this point what it is.
Yeah, and I think, I understand the exhibition games are the point of contact to fill that stuff out, but I think you said it off camera that these final 2 games you kind of want to have a stronger idea than we currently have around, who those 8 to 9 guys are going to be, but so that you can get an understanding of when things are not going right, what you're going to and what you're not going to. And then I think you touched on it really well. A lot of these other teams are built and have a guy like a Giannis or an SGA or a guy you can really go to and trust to get a bucket 100% of the time. I just don't know if we have that, and I think at times, like you said, we just get clunky and we break down and then just, fall back at that. Where we look at our best is when defensively we do everything we do really well, but offensively is when we're moving the ball, all 5 guys are getting the balls in their hand, and I think you touched on it off camera really well, playing inside out, giving it into a Jock, giving it into a Magne and kind of playing that way instead of kind of, hand
just
off,
at times. Yeah, I think at times we've got to get it inside. I still think that having even Giddy on the block or the elbow, Jock's done a fantastic job playmaking from the post. So when I say throw it to the post, I don't mean post up, back him down, score. It's we can run a lot of our sets. I just think at times, sometimes we will get too perimeter heavy, trying to run everything from there. And that was an issue in the World Cup. We had a huge issue of running all that stuff from the half court line, and you just never really flatten the defense out. So sometimes that post touch, coaches out there, it's not to score, but it's to flatten the defense out. You throw the ball in the post, what do defenders in the perimeter do? They all turn their head and they flatten out and open up a little bit. Then you can go back to a dribble handoff uphill from the post. You can kick it back out and run into a ball screen. So a bit more continuity there, but they're really gung-ho on a lot of that handoff stuff, and it's worked at times and at times it hasn't. So let's put you all on the spot, Pro. I know you haven't really followed a whole lot of the Olympic lead-ups, but there's 3 groups. So I'm not sure if you know how it works, Pro, but there's 3 groups of 4. Top 2, obviously.
Yeah, Bogues, I do survive outside the United States just a little bit sometimes.
You are American, though, so we always have to worry. There is other countries
outside. So it's
outside.
the top 2 in each group, and then the top 2?
Third place.
The
so
third
percentage
place, right?
comes into play, yeah, top 2. So the best 2 third place finishers, which hurts Australia because they've got probably the toughest group. And Australia's group probably don't have a blowout team when you look at the other groups. So we'll go with Group C first. We'll go work backwards. So they have Serbia, South Sudan, Puerto Rico, and the US. I'll go first. Obviously, US first, Serbia 2. I'm going to go South Sudan 3 and Puerto Rico 4. Trent?
I'm going to go US 1, Serbia 2, SSD 3, Puerto
same.
Rico 4. Yeah.
Pro?
I'll go Puerto Rico 3 and South Sudan 4.
No way.
It's going to be a good.
They almost beat the US. Come on, man. Give them some respect.
What's up?
They almost beat the US the other night. Give them some respect.
It's a friendly. It's a friendly, and I will. But no one's giving Puerto Rico any love over there, man.
Nah, Puerto Rico. I don't think they got enough. I think South Sudan's going to run all over them. Group B, I've got France 1, Germany 2, Brazil 3, Japan 4.
I'm going to go Germany 1, France 2, Brazil, Japan.
Fuck it. I'll go France, Germany, Japan, and Brazil.
Brazil last just to go contra. All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you guys go first on this one. Pro, Group A.
Oof, tough one. I'll go Canada. I'll go Canada, Australia, Greece, Spain on that one.
I'm going to go Canada, Australia, Spain, Greece.
Oh man, it's so tough. I got Canada first. I have Australia in 2 or 3. And it's out of Greece or us. But I just can't live with myself putting Spain last neither, because it just doesn't seem right?
European champions.
Yeah, it's so hard to put. It's just so hard. I know they're not as good, but it's so hard to
They're
put Spain.
old though, those Bogues. That's the only thing for me. They're just older.
Yeah, I know.
Like
I agree. I've got them last. Like I'm going, but it just looks weird. You got Spain last in a group, so I'm going to go.
doubt.
I'm going to go. I've got Australia, Greece 2-3 coin flip. I'll put Australia 2, Greece 3. But I think it's going to be a coin flip. And I think if we get 3, we're out. I think if we get 3, I think, unless you're pro and you think Brazil's going to finish 4th, I think Japan's somewhat an easy beat in that group that will get percentage up. Group C, I think Puerto Rico's somewhat South Sudan. Like I think South Sudan will beat Puerto Rico by more than we will beat 4th place Spain, and that hurts your percentage, right? So then you're banking on hopefully Japan. If Brazil are 3rd, hopefully Japan make it a game and make it super close, But you'd think Brazil beat Japan once again more than we beat Spain if they're in 4, if you end up in that 3rd spot.
Yeah, I reckon South Sudan and Spain will be the 3rd place teams that make it out for sure, because I don't think the point differential will be that crazy. And I think Greece historically, if you look at how they performed at the European Championships with Giannis, like all the guys were there, Greece always fizzle out when these tournaments, and especially in these.
You think Spain will come out?
Yeah,
3rd.
Yeah, I genuinely do. I think they've proven that they're the best team in Europe. They've beaten those teams with all those guys.
That means they're smacking someone in Group A though.
It's tough. Like if they're above Greece, I think if they get that win, I think they make it out, and I think South Sudan make it out of the other pool, because they've proven that when they have their full lineup and they're playing, they're pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do like this. It stops funny buggers trying to get seeds changed, because the old format pro, I don't know if you remember it, but it was just 6 and 6, and it was a simple 1v4 crossover, 2v3 crossover. So what teams would do is if they try to avoid the US by either winning, losing a game or whatever it was, you could try to manipulate your semi-final, like let's drop this game so then we meet US in the final if we happen to go that far. And FIBA's kind of caught on to that, where do they just
draw the 8 then? Like after the 8 are selected, they just draw them like out of a hat, right?
No,
there's no seeding in the
there used to be
8, is there?
No, when it was 6 and 6, it was just 1v4 crossover, 2v3.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. 2v3.
So what is it now?
Now it's 3 pools of 4. It used to be just 2 pools of 6. Quite simple. Top 4 go through.
No. Right. So what is it now, as far as it's just 8 go, or
they've got a formula. They've got some sort of formula. I don't think it's drawn, is it, for the finals? I think it's set out. It's set out somehow. So it'll be like, it'll say like, I think it's.
I thought I read that they maybe I could have sworn I read somewhere where it was the 8 teams after they qualify. It's just a draw, but they didn't say anything about like an actual formula. Trent could.
No, I think there would be, because you'd get surely rewarded for finishing.
If it's the same as Tokyo, which I'm pretty sure it is, I'm pretty sure. Like for example, if Spain come out at 3rd and they're the lowest ranked 3rd place team, they're going to get versus the US, who's probably the highest ranked first seed team, and it works crossover like that.
Yeah, they try to help you got to get some sort of reward for being the 1 seed.
Yeah,
right. But just basically go straight into the quarters. Whereas the World Cup, it was the pools carried over to pools.
There's
so
like a second round of pool games.
Yeah. So, but we wish the Australians good luck, and just put it out there. People out there are, comment a lot on the Australian boomers, and sometimes critical, sometimes not. This isn't never going at someone to be personal, or I want them to win a gold medal, right? It is what it is. But you sometimes hear, if you criticize this guy's not playing well, or I think this should. Oh yeah, how'd that go for you? There's people get really emotional and passionate about it. It's never personal. It's just me, analyzing kind of what I think or what I would do, and it's not necessarily a shot at the coaching. Last time I made some observations and everyone's like, oh, you're having a shot at Gorge. It's like, no, I just think I would have done it this way, in my opinion, and it's easier to be an armchair critic after the fact. But that's what this podcast is about, and that's what we're doing. We'd like to give our opinions on things.
So, Bogues, on this thing, I just looked it up. The knockout rounds begin with 8 teams in the quarterfinals. A random draw will determine the matchups for the quarters with 2 important caveats. The highest ranked teams will be placed in the same pot, and therefore end up on opposite sides of the bracket.
Oh, yep.
And then teams from the same groups can't be drawn against each other in the quarters.
So essentially 1, 1, and 1 in each group will be in a pool, and the best placed second will be in a pool, unless it's, and then it'll be the rest in the other pool, and they'll cross them over that way.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, you're actually right for once, pro. It's amazing. Jeez.
I feel like you'll kind of end up with the same result anyway.
It'd be similar, but it'd be what throws it out is if let's say Australia were 1 and the best placed second was Canada, then they can't end up on that same side. So that makes things a bit interesting. There's a lot of
it's always weird. It's always weird to me. Because there's 9,000 qualification tournaments every summer for the Olympics. I don't know who the fuck qualifies and how. And the second thing is I didn't know how the 8 teams after they qualified, how they sort of match everybody up after that. That's 2 things that I never really knew about with the Olympics.
They change it like...
Well, the Olympics is always different to the World Cup too, right? Because it falls under Olympic. It's still FIBA, but it's Olympics do their own shit.
And like it's all, in terms of qualifications, based off region as well. Like they have to have a team from
That's
Africa.
why we make it,
And we make it easy. All we have to do is finish higher.
Like if we have to go to the qualifier, we'd have a few issues some years,
Well, that's why it's so tough for these European teams, man. There's a lot of, there's like Latvia and a lot of teams that did really well at the World Cup.
Latvia, Croatia, Slovenia.
Yeah, like
Slovenia
to not
top
see
4.
them at an Olympic Games is tough because then you got teams like Puerto Rico, Brazil. Like, all due respect, like those teams are better than those teams.
Yeah,
but
100%
you
agree.
gotta have representation.
Pro, got anything to finish us off with?
Yeah, you think the Americans are going to lose a game?
Is that fact or fake news?
That's fact or fake news. Will the Americans, USA, lose a game?
So they'll run the gauntlet
throughout the whole tournament.
Will they lose a game? Fact, they will lose
Group
a game.
Or
they will lose a
fact
game.
or fake news, they will.
Who to?
I don't know. I just playing the numbers. I think they'll get us. They might get us. Maybe Serbia early. You never know, and then that'll roll them up. I'll just say they'll lose 1.
That would make things very interesting for the crossovers if they lost the pool game.
Or it could be a final. You never know.
Yeah.
But FIBA's always different. I know they're a stacked roster, and the Olympics they do much better. But it's always a little bit different in the.
They've looked vulnerable at times,
in
for
FIBA,
sure.
yeah. Like they're playing ebbs and flows, but it is friendly, so it's hard to gauge. But the way they've played in the lead up, they haven't looked that great, in my opinion. I think they're definitely vulnerable. Like South Sudan shouldn't be credit to them, but they
hard to scout that team too.
Yeah, they are. But still, it's like they shouldn't be in the. They should have won that game too. Really,
they were down 14,
and a questionable call towards the end. Edwards, I think he's slapped an arm towards the end. Could have been a foul. So, but yes, pro. What about you?
Nah, they're not going to lose. I felt for that last time. I felt for that in the last Olympics. Remember they lost, like Australia beat them or something like that, or somebody beat them in a friendly, and they were like, we were like, what the fuck? There's no chance, blah, blah, blah. They're going to lose. And they would beat everybody by a 70. So, yeah, I'm going to say they're not going to lose.
Embiid could derail the whole thing. He could not get enough touches and just start swinging on his own teammates. You never know. That's what I'm hoping.
Who knows? Yeah. 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 What happened with that?
Yeah. He made some comments around like LeBron being too old to lead this team, or something. Why do we have old guys leading this team or something like that? Can we have old guys?
I think someone asked him about closing, like who you giving the ball to closing or something, and then he made a comment about LeBron's age.
Just like a LeBron just got a drive by for no reason,
and then followed it up by like willing Team USA to a win over South Sudan as well. Like completely took over and won them that game.
Yeah, so interesting.
Oh,
I'm
man.
hoping
What an interesting
that's
year
the
it's going
thing
to be,
that
man.
the only thing that can derail the US usually is that
Which
that-
would be hilarious considering the lottery in getting Embiid to Team USA, like all the drama around France and
Yeah.
Cameroon. You bring him in and you get a bronze medal because of it. Would
he
be
gets
rough.
gets it for France.
That would be hilarious.
All right, bro. Thank you. We will see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll
right,
hopefully have a
fellas.
good result.
Enjoy.
Thanks, man. Bye.